Hello and welcome to our new show, Secret Sauce, where we have questions posed by you guys and ourselves to people within the industry to have a deeper look at what goes on within within the esports industry. In this season, we're tackling coaching, and we have two experienced coaches with us, Vetrezz and Mr.G. We have myself, Jamil, and Omar as well on the show. And without further ado, let's start.
So, esports is maybe described as a short-lived career, especially in the player side. So, how can we maybe prepare the player or have the player deal with this, especially since a lot of players are young players. Maybe they quit school, maybe they put their college life or university life on hold. How can we deal with this situation, especially given that esports is very short-lived? Some may have 1 year or 2 years, and this is the entire career. Vetrezz, you should be very well versed in this. We'll start with you.
So yeah, let me start with myself as an example. I started playing esports when I was playing in esports, let's say it like that. When I was 13, I was on my first professional team, let's call it like that. And yeah, from there on, I had no worries in my life at that point because I could just focus on gaming. But when I turned 18, I noticed that this is not really sustainable for the future, and I had to do something else as at least a backup plan, because you can't play until you're 80. I mean, technically you probably can, but not on high top tier level. So looking at the wages or the salaries that players get, it's, let's say, over 99% of all pro players, at least that I know in Germany, get less than 2,000 euros a month, which is already, I would say, close to low income after taxes, because you have to give away a lot of that. And so it's very hard to actually form a career like that, because you need to finish your school while you're playing most of the times. You need to have some sort of job experience to have a backup plan. And this is the hardest part, because you basically waste 5 years of your 20s if you want to go pro and you don't really make it. So let's say you try to make it to a tier 1 level team and you are 25 in the end, and then you decide to stop playing because you see that you need more money in your life or more financial benefits. So you try to get into the job market, and the job market is like, what have you done for the past 7 years since you were 18? Then you tell them, yeah, I tried to go pro in the game, and they will say that that's the same thing that 800 other people told me, but essentially they did nothing for their own job careers. So if you don't make it as a player, it will be always hard, because it's not sustainable, at least in Europe right now. If you live in a country where rent is high, where living expenses are high, that's also a reason why Germany doesn't have that many pro players, and it's hard for young players to go full time into gaming without getting anything. I know from VRL teams in Valorant that they get 400 or 500 euros a month as payment for full-time work, which is insane if you think about it, because this is the breaking point. If you have the financial background to just be free to do whatever you want, you would have way more esports players than at this point right now. So what I have to say about this is, it's hard to get school and work across everything. But I did it like that. I played, and then I stepped down from the professional league to a semi-pro league to do my job training and to do my university. And then I joined back in esports as a manager, but I didn't really have time to ever go pro for a longer time than until 18 years old, because then I had to set up my plan C or plan B. Actually more like plan C to plan Y or X or something, so I can try to go into esports to make a living. So yeah, it's hard to actually get a lot of money out of esports, and it's harder than you think. So this is why also careers are short, because money is the main motivation for most of the players. That not for most of players necessarily, like for most of the people in their 20s, for example.
That and having to play for a living. This is kind of the dream for every gamer.
Well, most of them. Let's say it like that.
I think this is why a lot of players also stream to generate the side income as well.
Yeah.
Because of their, they're popular, they have followers, so people can donate. That can help, sustain them. Oddly enough, now I see why the Fortnite scene is built from streaming, from that way around. Because if you have the streamers, you also have to an extent a certain financial aspect coming from it, and you're also gonna probably you might get drafted into a team, so that way you have like maybe both, but not all leagues do have that luxury, and not everyone wants to stream.
And not all leagues pay the same. Some leagues don't pay much in terms of prize. So
I was surprised with the VRL thing.
Yeah.
G?
And yeah, Mr. G, your thoughts, please.
Yeah, I have to say, I'm thinking this one through a lot. I'm listening to what Vetrezz was saying there about young, because you can be highly competitive while you're young in a lot of different areas, sports and things like that. And ultimately, of course, it's going to come down to the time. I agree, the money at a certain point when you're looking to create your independence, but also just the sheer amount of time that you're putting into looking to be good. There's a lot of. Are there a lot of academies around, Vetrezz, where young talent can see how good they really are, or is that still a relatively small part of a lot of teams or orgs?
Can you repeat that? I had to cut out for 1 second, sorry.
Academies.
Yeah.
Do a lot of orgs have academies, or is it only a small number of orgs that can afford to maintain an academy as well?
If I think about it, I know like let's say more like a handful of teams. It's actually more than 5, but like it's just a handful of teams that actually have an academy. And depends what you want to offer. If you want to offer the academy players a full-time living salary, not that many. But if you offer them a chance to get a whiff of the real professional world, and they can see in a part-time side job if that's for them, then I think that's more sustainable. But academies are more like, it's more of an exception than the norm.
Okay, then I think that probably part of the key is what Vetrezz said about semi-professional. If there is an understanding that what you're doing is semi-professional, that you are either going to school, earning some money while continuing to see where you will land in the esport world, and whether you have the ability, because I'm pretty sure you will find out quickly how high you can go. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of feedback that you will be getting. You're streaming, you're playing, and you will at some stage know whether you are tier 1 capable or not, right? You're either in that game or you're not in that game. And I think that if you're not in that game, then semi-professional means that you're trying to have some fun, but you're also generating a living on the side, or setting yourself up for the future life after that. If you are tier 1, then I think it comes down to the fight and the commitment that you would need to do to be tier 1 in anything, really. And what you were saying there, Jamil, about, not everybody wants to stream. I understand that too. But I also think that it potentially becomes part of the picture. If you're a Fortnite player, if you're doing this, if you have this ability to go to the very top and compete in there, then streaming is part of what you should do. Yeah. It just becomes, every sport, every sector has something you might not particularly like doing. Yeah. But you do it because you're committed to going to the top. Can I ask, from all of your experience, what do you think is the esport that potentially has the longest career span and opportunity to make a living from it without necessarily having to think about side gigs? Which one?
I think like shooter game. Excuse me?
You want to know my answer? Like,
I'm curious, Vetrezz, because you started laughing.
Yeah,
it's actually Tetris for me. Because Tetris is there for over 30 years and they're still the same players playing. So it has to be Tetris for me.
And they're making money? Like,
they are having millions of prize money in Tetris, so yeah.
Really?
Yeah, so that will be my answer.
Okay, there's a one I couldn't expect.
Yeah.
Okay, what were you guys going to say?
I was gonna go with MOBAs because, like, in FPS, first-person shooter, your reaction time really dictates if you can survive or not. And like we all know that there's a threshold, like let's say 27, 29. Your reaction time isn't as fast as an 16-year-old, 18-year-old. So, given that it's a nanosecond difference between you shooting first and winning, this is the difference. So in MOBAs, where even a higher ping can not affect you as much as FPS, I would say MOBAs is more sustainable in terms of age-wise, in terms of how long can you have your career. Because it would become more strategy than just pure mechanics.
Okay.
To add to that, because we're saying players, I was gonna say MOBAs, because you see in the leagues, like there are players from season 1 to an extent.
Yeah.
Or you see them early on, like from season 2 or 3, that they're still in the league, either competing or being part of the league in a sense of. Maybe some of them now are analysts or coaches, or some have joined from the professional side. So they're still within that space, maybe not as players, or they've just also let go and become streamers because to leverage their popularity, but also not have that sense of the pressure of competition all the time. But there are players who come in and out of retirement all the time. You have players that are always there, and some that are like, for example, I'm going to butcher his name, Vetrezz, I think is his name. He's a league player, but he stepped in as a coach in the last spring split for the Mad Lions to coach their top laner, just to get him through the burnout and to properly teach him to cover his bases for top lane mechanics. And then now he's playing again. So there's a versatility for it, which is very refreshing. On the other hand, fighting games also are a little bit weird in that sense. Like you have, for example, a player named Me in Tekken who has been playing it since Tekken 1, and Tekken is an old game. Like not as old as Tetris, of course, because yeah. But it's been a while, like it's been, I think, 13 years or so. So you have someone who's a veteran who keeps competing and also winning. Like it's not someone who has declined in skill. He really still wins the trophies and is able to compete. And he makes a living. So
And it just occurred to me, Vetrezz, that Tetris and Vetrezz rhyme. So
Yeah.
So that was really random. I know that was so random, but the more you said Tetris, the more I thought of Vetrezz, and that was it. Okay,
Yeah.
Interesting stuff though. Because like if you think about young people looking at their futures, and then you do have young people who are good at an esport, and they have the mechanics and they have a good infrastructure. They live in the right place. There are good orgs around, that sort of a thing. Then it wouldn't surprise me, of course, if they go, well, one option would be, I would like to, for 10 years until I'm about 25, I'd like to be heavily competing at a high level. So there could be a lot of conversation, even more conversation, let's put it that way, moving forward about this as a career option. One, of course, where you might have to pivot to be a coach or an analyst or a manager. But the esport sector now is offering a lot. And a lot of people that you meet involved with esport potentially already have other careers that they actually come the other way a little bit. They've gone and gotten their career, but they come back to the esports sector. But when it comes to playing, these answers surprised me. Okay.